Well,
do the
I
right
wanted to ask
thing.
you a question, not about your past, but about your contemporary situation, because I think you're the same age as our president, who recently fell asleep in an interview. Anya, what did he refer to the new? He referred to the new British prime minister in a kind of novel way. I don't have the video.
Rashid. I mean, he didn't get the name right. That's what we're used to.
We called him like Rashid Sununu or something.
Oh, yeah.
But and he's like, "As my brother says, oh boy," or like, how did he become prime minister? But yeah, he's not really all there. But you seem to be in a very.
Sorry.
I mean, you're able to carry through a 3-hour interview with Joe Rogan, whereas our president.
Forget about the nightly tour.
Yeah, and the tour. I mean, I could never. I did a 13-city tour through the UK for a book I wrote, and I was like, I needed to go to a mental institution afterwards. It was just impossible. But you've been constantly on tour, so I guess I have 2 questions, just because we got to pack it all in. My first question is, how do you do it? How do you stay mentally and physically fit? And my second question is, why haven't you sold out like Bono? Why haven't you just completely sold out to Davos? I'm sure you've been approached.
Well, I just lost you, so I'm going to speak to a blank screen. I don't know if you can still see me or not.
We can.
No, we see you.
For some reason I can't see you, but that's all right. I think I'm too tall to sell out like Bono. He comes up to about here.
So he's not confident.
Now, don't be unkind. Don't be unkind. He's a bit challenged. I've got a daft story about Bono, but it sort of sums me and Bono up, I think, and I'll tell it to you now. Maybe I told it to Joe Rogan. I can't remember. But it is that we met once in an FBO. It was in 2020. We met in an FBO at Zurich Airport, and I had just returned with Clive Stafford Smith and a lady from Trinidad and Tobago called Felicia, and her 2 sons, Ayub and Mahmoud, who were 8 and 5, I think, at the time. And Camila, my wife, and I, we had just been in northeastern Syria, well, mainly in the Kurdish bit of northern Iraq. And we had flown there, especially with Felicia, to get these 2 boys who were in Camp Rouge, which was a refugee camp, because their father, her husband, had stolen them from Trinidad and Tobago and flown with them to Syria because he had misguidedly joined whatever it was called, whatever they were called, ISIS. And then he was killed. And so the boys, anyway, we got them. Fantastic. We got them. We were there for a few days. Clive went across whatever that river's called. It's not the Tiber, that's in Rome, but it's probably the Euphrates. Yeah, I think so. And so then we jumped in the plane the next day and flew back. And we were going through the FBO at Zurich, and suddenly there was Bono. And it was like January or February. And he came over and did that smiley short thing that he does. And I didn't do a lot in respect. I was quite quiet and reserved because I don't have a great deal of respect for Bono. But I remember thinking to myself, it was sort of, oh, hello, and oh, well. And he went, what are you doing here? And I sort of went, this and that. And I was pretty non-committal, and then it was over. And I thought, I know what you're fucking doing. You're on your way to Davos, aren't you? I didn't say that to him. And of course, that was what he was doing.
Oh my God.
Well, that's how we did it. Bono spends his weekends with George fucking Bush, talking about how cute the old man is and sitting on his ranch. I'm told that could be misinformation. I don't know. But that's not how I spent. And going to Davos. Well, Davos is a criminal operation. It's the worst place in the world to be. You're surrounded by the people who are destroying the world on purpose so they can make a few quid. That is what you're supporting, Bono. But he probably thinks, no, you know what? They need to be in the houses of the powerful. No, I've gone Northern Irish. He's from Dublin, so that's a terrible accent.
But what happens with, like, you're an internationally famous rocker like Bono or Roger Waters? what happens there? Do you get approached by Davos reptiles, or what happens when these figures get co-opted? And have you ever had to tell one of them to fuck off to the bar?
Well, the fact of the matter is, Max, that they've never approached me to go to Davos. I can't fucking think why, you know, because I could play me fucking banjo, you know, and entertain them fully, I hope. I've no idea. But obviously, if they did approach me, I'd go, thank you, no. I have, you know, I have kind of quite good relationships with a number of people in a number of governments, only because my paths have crossed with them. Well, for instance, you guys were there. You were in Caracas in 2019, was it, or 20, when fucking Branston, to talk about another prick, tried to set up a concert on the Colombian border.
Libertad, libertad.
Exactly, and trying to help them commit the coup d'etat and impose a fake president into the country of Venezuela, Guaido or whatever his name was. It's I have to say, it's a great measure of how much respect Maduro and his government and the Bolivarian revolution have for the law that they didn't kill him after it all went sideways, because they didn't. He's still there. I think he's still sitting in the National Assembly, which is pretty amazing. Can you imagine somebody trying to spearhead an armed coup against the government of any right-wing United States supported thing, surviving it? They'd just kill him. Just kill him. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so I did stick my oar into that water, and the people of Venezuela were a little bit on the grateful side for me standing up and pointing out that Branson is a nerveless arsehole, and that what he was doing was disgusting beyond all belief. He was just trying to generate some support for the Richard Branson for Emperor campaign.
Well, Anya, what do we know about that concert now?
Almost nothing. From it. Almost nothing. They, last I checked, haven't posted a press release on the website since the time the concert took place, and it's very difficult to track down any record of where the money they raised went.
Yeah, where did all the money go, Richard? Where did all the money you raised go?
We know that a lot of the aid that was provided by the United States to be rammed over the border with the U.S. military rotted, was burned by Colombian and U.S. aligned thugs on the Colombian side of the border, and that the Guaido officials who were tasked with overseeing the aid distribution and management of defected soldiers in Colombia actually just inflated all the receipts and cashed out, took that money for themselves and spent it on lavish shopping trips.
Yeah, this is the Elliot Abrams playbook, if I dare be so bold. You know, one of the things I'm changing about my show is it says, under Reagan's picture in the song Bravery being out of range, it says war criminal murdered however many thousand people it was. I think I say in El Salvador, and I've been desperately trying to get in, but it takes a long render, so I didn't get it in before the end of the time. Not to mention, oh no, it's Guatemala. And I wanted to put in afterwards, not to mention El Salvador and Honduras, to name but two, because we could go on down that list.
Or Nicaragua.
I was just going to say we could go on to Nicaragua and all of that stuff, you know, late 70s, early 80s, all of that absolutely rife slaughter of indigenous people and opponents of the fascist regimes that those countries had either imposed on them or at least hugely supported, certainly by the Reagan administration and others. But I didn't get a chance to make those differences, those changes. But that history is all there. The problem is that in the United States, successive governments keep the people so ignorant by putting no money into public education at all, not a cent, well, hardly, that they keep them all ignorant and just fed with the mantra, we're exceptional, we're great, we bring liberty and democracy and human rights to the world in the face of almost insurmountable odds from autocratic regimes who we have to destroy. And we're going to destroy Russia now, and then we're going to move on and destroy China. And that is what's in front of us. And you just have to follow us and do whatever you're told, and everything will be all right. So it's our job, obviously, the Grey Zone, Jimmy Dore, Real News Network, blah, 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 blah. It's our job, and me as a performer, a public performer, it's our job to go, this is all bullshit, not just a bit of it, all of it. You are an insanely depraved empire doing nothing but harm everywhere you go and with everything you touch. And this idea of building thousands of military bases around the world and trying to defeat everyone in war will lead only to a nuclear conflagration, and we'll all be dead. And I don't hope you'll be happy then, because this is insane. And we all know it is. Those of us who, on my mother's advice, read books. Let's all read Chris Hedges' new book, which comes out today. And he's got a new book about war. I think it leans gently on whatever it was that Elie Wiesel said after he wrote Night. Elie Wiesel, you know, the Holocaust survivor and blah, 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 blah. He famously said, I think, he said, the greatest sin of all is to stand by silent and indifferent. Well, that is something that nobody can accuse us of. And they can't accuse, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of us around the world. Somehow we have to amplify our voices till the choir that we're all in, the choir where we love our brothers and sisters and want to look after them, not slaughter them, the volume of the choir rises to a pitch where it's the only thing you can hear, and then our message will take over, and we will fire all these doddery old Bidens and whoever the new Prime Minister of England is, who everybody will have forgotten in 2 weeks because he's a schmuck. We will see, and maybe the planet will be saved, but it's not going to be saved by fucking Exxon or Davos or Bono or Richard Branson.